The Parliamentary Secretary to Indian Affairs, the Minister of Indian Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've obviously been listening to the honourable member's comments for the last 20 minutes or so. And Mr. Speaker, I just see it as something that actually diminishes the debate. When she refers to the failings of her former government as being some panacea that would have cured all the ills in the Aboriginal communities, I just see this as just such a shameful statement. Mr. Speaker, when I look back at the proposals of that former government on its dying days, it brought forward a proposal at the very last moment in office, a proposal that they felt was going to make a difference. But I'd like to ask that member, where was the systemic reform in those proposals? Kelowna was only a validation of the status quo. There's a broken system out there, Mr. Speaker, and that former government had 13 years to attempt to tackle it. They didn't wait. They didn't do anything. They waited to the last second, and then they brought forward their validation of the status quo. Mr. Speaker, I find that shameful, and I'd like to ask this member opposite, where was the systemic reform in her Kelowna proposal?
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, that is one of the most astounding comments I have heard from this member, and I've heard many astounding ones. It's quite clear, it's absolutely clear, that this member has no idea what collaboration, what consultation, what working together, with sitting together, with developing plans, with working it out, with understanding that there's not a one-size-fits-all, with not an understanding that we tell you what you do, but working with the communities for 18 months to hear what their needs, what their concerns are, and how do we remedy them. But no, this Member of Parliament thinks he knows best each and every time what's required for Aboriginal people. He doesn't respect the need to listen. He doesn't respect the need to hear. He doesn't believe in collaboration. He sat in a committee and listened to over 20 presentations from communities where they said, don't do this. And he said, I know best. So the lessons of Kelowna are lessons of collaboration. They're lessons of working together. They're lessons of giving and taking and developing plans and developing frameworks and coming to a mutual and common understanding of what the issues are, region by region by region, and community. In my last visit there over, I guess, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, on a tour with some of the liaison officers there, I was actually struck by the vibrancy, by the sense of community, by the fact that members of the community, whatever their living conditions, look out for each other. They know each other, they look out for each other, they know when they're not there, they know when they are there, they know everybody's individual needs. Life is not easy for many of them, but there certainly is an energy, a vibrancy, and there are many community organizations, which the member knows far better than I do, who are working with them on the ground and beyond to create the kind of community and environment and opportunities and health and education both for the residents of the downtown east side and beyond. So I thank you very much for bringing that up. I had intended to acknowledge it. I didn't. And it's an important aspect of that community.
Honourable the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I listened very carefully to the member from Winnipeg South Centre's comments. And I have to say that it is really astounding how little respect she has for a member of the First Nation community, the member for Winnipeg South, who is an expert in the areas of First Nation, both as a member of the First Nation community and as Parliamentary Secretary. for the Minister of Indian and Northern Affairs. But my question, I have two comments. One is, the Kelowna Accord, it's not an accord, it was a press release. A press release released in the dying days of a government that was in existence for 13 years. And that's the best they can do, is a press release. There was no money set aside or anything. It was just a press release. Secondly, the precursors for success, fundamental to everyone, are human rights. And I'd like to know why the Indian Affairs critic for the member of the opposition is preventing this government from allowing human rights in Section 67 to be applied to First Nations people as it applies to her and I. It is absolutely despicable that human rights of First Nations peoples are denied by the official opposition.
Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Do I have a few minutes, or just?
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre has 2 minutes.
Thank you
and
very
she
much.
has the floor.
Thank you very much. I would suggest to the Parliamentary Secretary that he stop reading the speaking notes that he gets out and try and get at the truth. The Liberal members of Parliament support the repeal of Section 67 of the Human Rights Act, and they have supported it from the outset. What they haven't supported is the lack of respect, the lack of process, the lack of consideration for the concerns of First Nations communities when they came before the committee and said, we want to know how this is going to impact on us. How is it going to affect our collective rights? Have you done an impact analysis? Is there some consideration for a non-derogation clause? We all support, and I can give you chapter and verse where we've said it over and over again. We support the repeal of Section 67 of the Human Rights Act. We support it. We don't like it being rammed down people's throats. We want it done with respect, with courtesy, and with some understanding and listening to and responding to and hearing the communities, not telling them, I know best for you.